everyone, I'm here live with Jason Roberts today for Talent Trailblazer TV. Jason is our Global Head of Technology and Analytics for Randstad Sourceright, and we more fondly call him Chief Nerd if you look around his office today. We're really excited to have Jason with us because he's going to give us some insight into how technology is reshaping talent acquisition strategies for customers and access to talent. So let's get this interview started. Hi, Jason. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I've been in talent acquisition for over 20 years now, and I started out as a recruiter, and I was a recruiter for many years. Started in the way many of us start in sort of agency level recruiting. Moved into corporate recruiting roles over time. Then I did 7 years at Cisco Systems, which was really, really great. And taught me how to really operate in a large enterprise environment. And then another 7 years at Accenture before I came here.
So Jason, technology is really evolving at the speed of light today. And I think that, a lot of companies struggle to keep up with the pace of technology change, but it is reshaping work. So what does the future of work look like for talent leaders?
Yeah, technology is changing quickly. So I think the process of recruiting stays roughly the same going forward. We still have to identify people, screen them for the jobs, interview them, and then ultimately make a hire. The way that I think it shifts for us is that much, much more of that can be handled by automation. So productivity becomes a better view for us, right? So our biggest expense as a company is people, and we absolutely need our people, and but oftentimes they're stuck doing jobs that they're sort of administrative. They're not the best use of their times. And we want to make sure that since we're spending that on these great people on the team, that they're in the most value add possible activities. So what we're going to see is automation of low value add activities, even matching candidates. Some of the places we're seeing it show up the most. AI is showing up in candidate match, meaning candidates looking at a job and then looking at a CV and deciding if a CV is a good match for that job. Machines do that really well now. In fact, we did a challenge where we compared 10 of the best sourcers in the world against a machine a little over a year ago. And the machine, we had our top 10 sourcers, the machine in there, and the machine came in third in this competition. So machines can do this just as well as sourcers, and just as well as some of the best sourcers that we can ever run into. So we expect to see more and more of that integrated into our processes. The other piece that we're seeing technology show up, especially AI, is in bots. So bot-based interactions with candidates. And we'll see more and more of that. Interview scheduling is an activity that we spend a lot of time on. I heard a stat that it's 45 minutes to schedule a large group interview on average. And then you do that times 3 times every position we fill, at least at bare minimum. That's a lot of time spent on that. And I think most of us would say that that's probably not the best use of our time. So what we want people to spend their time is on things like having human interactions, engaging with people, engaging with candidates that are a good fit for your role, helping to sell the position and sell the candidate to the various parties, and closing the deals. A lot of people worry about technology. They think that, oh no, the Terminator's coming, they're going to take my job. And I don't think it's as much Terminator. It's more like an Iron Man suit, right? So I do like Iron Man. He's up here somewhere. But it's more like an Iron Man suit. And the idea is, you're a recruiter, man. You're like Tony Stark. You've got better things to do than handle the day-to-day stuff that happens. We're going to empower you with something that automates a great deal of what needs to happen, makes you a much more powerful recruiter, while you focus on using your brain for all the stuff your brain can be used for, and interacting with people the way that you can interact with them.
So Jason, with things moving so quickly, tell me what you think is the next big innovation in recruitment. And, if we look at it, why is it so important to employers today to embrace this tech and touch model?
Yeah, so the big innovations that are active right now, the next big thing that we're actively deploying today, those are AI-based matching. So we're giving that to everyone. That's becoming a part of our standard. so that the bots are able to look through all of our candidates that we've ever had and determine who's a good fit and present those to us to be screened. When those screens show up, we're able to do that automatically using bots and do some bot-based screening, even candidate re-engagement with bots to say, hey, we haven't talked in a while. How are you? What are you looking for now? Has anything changed since the last time we talked? Those are the sorts of things that we see coming. And having the bot-based interactions move deeper and deeper into the process is what I see happening in the near future. This is important because it's, well, twofold. One, it increases the speed and agility of the organization. So if I have a machine doing automated matching, sending out candidates, candidate screens immediately, I'm not waiting on a recruiter to do this via phone call. I'm also not, I can also work in parallel where I reach out to all candidates at the same time that are a good match, versus in series. When a recruiter is picking up the phone, they can only do one at a time. When a bot is reaching out over SMS to people who have opted in and said, hey, reach out when there's a job here, we're able to do that with hundreds and hundreds at a time. We may limit it to 25 or so, but we have lots more capability on that front. So speed really gets impacted. The other piece that's really important here is candidate experience, which seems strange. Using technology to provide a more human feeling experience seems weird. But if you think about it, the biggest complaint that candidates have is falling into the candidate black hole. So nobody ever talks to me. They don't tell me where I am, what's happened in the process. I sent my resume 6 months ago, but I never heard back. When we have the ability to automatically reach out to a larger group of people, they hear back and they get feedback. And we have studies that have told us that they would much rather hear back in an automated way than not hear back at all, and by a huge percentage. And we can teach the bots to even say, when a person says, hey, I'd like to talk to a recruiter about this job, to kick them out to a recruiter to take over from there. So a big shift in that, but the big deal is it helps to drive speed and efficiency first. Better use, we've not been great at using our past candidates. The machines that are out there with matching really make that much more straightforward process for us than it has been in the past. And the bot-based interactions, both to speed the process up and to create a more human experience for people.
Jason, I fully agree. I was actually looking at some analytics today that showed me that, if you look at a company's ATS or their database, generally the utilization rate of, connecting those candidates is less than 5%. And that's not a great candidate experience when you're associated with a brand of a company and having applied to a company. So I definitely see the opportunity to really increase the utilization of key candidate databases. And I like to potentially think that maybe one day databases will be dead and we'll have, like you said before, really nurtured talent communities where we're using technology and our expertise in recruiting our people to engage skills-based talent communities. Are you seeing a little bit more of that conversation with customers as well?
We are. We're seeing a move in the industry towards curated talent. So there are some companies that have popped up that do this in small niches. And really, if you think about it as a staffing organization, this happens as a byproduct of our work. So on the staffing side, when we have someone out on assignment, they complete an assignment, we know something about their performance, and we can curate a pool of candidates based on how people have performed in the past and offer those up to our customers in a much more speedy way with a lot more data involved. The other thing that we're able to do, if you look at sort of our more permanent side hiring, like in RPO, we can pool candidates that we've talked to. They're silver medalists, for example. They've been through an interview process. And we're interested in them in some way, and offer that curated list in a better way than we have. So it's interesting that we haven't done a good job of this in the past, and people are starting to see the value of these curated pools. And we have this curation that happens naturally. So we're doing a lot of work right now to take advantage of our natural curation activities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all about how we tackle some of the key challenges that employers are facing today. When you think about it, talent scarcity and key skill sets is driving, a lot of pain for companies. And I think if you think about speed and quality, everything that we're looking at is how to increase that speed to quality talent and really have a great employer brand experience with candidates. So tell me a bit more. What do you think are some of the challenges for employers today where technology can really help them solve those challenges?
Oh gosh. So I was asked a question yesterday on a leaders forum about how do you know if technology is the answer? And this is sort of similar. Um, we're seeing friction in the process in a few different places. We see friction in the process for onboarding, getting paperwork done. It's painful. It's a long drawn out process. I think that there's a great place for technology there. There's friction in the process for interview scheduling. Also, a really painful process that doesn't need to be. There are some B2B solutions that have shown up in the last year or two that are being applied at least in thought and concept in our world. So if you think about a Calendly or X.AI, where the bot is scheduling meetings for you, you can use the same sorts of technologies for interview schedules. It gets a little more complicated when you have 5 interviewers on the same day who need to interview sequentially and book a conference room. That gets a little harder. So there's some additional complexities there, but I think that's a place where there's friction in the process and certainly a lot of activity to remove that friction right now. Even in our space, we're actively working towards that at the moment. And then matching candidates and utilizing our database, of course, we've just talked about that. That's the lowest hanging fruit. I think that's a huge gap that we as an industry have, not being good stewards of that data. And you'll see us being better and better stewards of data over time, not just for that piece, but also using the information we have about our own hiring practices to ultimately make better decisions on where to hire and how to hire and being predictive about what to do. Then the next step will be for that data to help us be prescriptive. So tell us what to do next. And we see that this is going to happen. Here's the actions you should take. And then finally, when you get into cognitive computing, that's when AI really takes over, where they don't even tell you what to do. The bot just does it in some way. So I see us evolving to that point ultimately.
Just a couple of more questions, because tech in itself is quite complex in terms of a landscape for employers out there or companies out there. I think, what do they say? 200 to 300 new HR technologies come to market every quarter. So I can imagine even the sales calls HR leaders get, as an example. If an employer is looking at how can they really optimize their recruiting process or the talent acquisition model, where do you think are some of the best places for them to start?
So there's a concept called modularization, which means a lot of the technologies that are coming out are sort of point solutions. And when I say point solutions, it's I do one piece of the process, and it was frustrating at first because they weren't a full product; they were a feature more than anything else. And I think the starting point is having a foundational technology, your CRM, your ATS, that is good at integrating modularized tools. So most of our applicant tracking systems and CRMs don't have automated matching technology that's as strong as some of the companies that do this as a pure data science company. Being able to plug in a smarter brain is an important piece. The other piece is the bot capabilities. Most of our tools don't have bots inherently built. The ones that they are working on or building are not particularly intelligent bots. They're sort of baseline Watson-based bots. They haven't built their own conversation engines like some of the other tools have. So being able to insert that module. Same thing with data and analytics. If you want to see a view of your whole world in one place, you need to be able to export your data into a single analytics platform. So I think integration is going to be incredibly big for us in the next little bit, taking all of these point solutions, treating them as modules that you're adding and taking away from your existing stack and moving from there. Staying on top of all of this is really difficult. I actually have a person full-time. His job is tech eval. And we had to hire someone to work for him this year because there was more tech eval than one person could handle as a full-time job. in HR technology. So it's absolutely impossible for a technology leader to do this. So my best advice is rely on experts who you can reach out to and who know. You can actually follow some experts. A guy named George Larock is one that I follow quite a bit. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'm out there quite a bit on some of the Facebook groups having these conversations. But that's where I get the starters of my conversations. But again, the team here is combing through a lot of these technologies. It's even more complicated when you get into a global view, because one of the drivers of AI, and for us, it's natural language processing. So when you have multiple languages, there are different levels of adoption of natural language processing as soon as you break away from English. And many of these companies have not broken away from English, and it's hard to find solutions that work truly globally now. So what we're finding is that we're having to evaluate technologies regionally now and have regional plays for some of the modules that we plug in, because there's not a single global player when it comes to the full natural language processing capability. So it's certainly a complex landscape. I think that the idea is to lean on some of the people who do it for a living to help with that. And you can do that by following online or even just reaching out and engaging us to help with that sort of service.
And I think it sounds like, you've got to maintain a really flexible technology model and ecosystem, but make sure that it always can plug in and plug out as needed as technology continues to evolve. So I think you're right, Jason. It's definitely a level of expertise that not everyone has. So I think, as the market continues to evolve, it's good to lean on that expertise.
Yeah, that brings me to a thought. There was a time when sort of building your own stuff made a lot of sense, right? So when every CRM and ATS were basically the same thing, and building your own as an organization like us made sense. As these individual point solutions started showing up everywhere, that became less and less viable, right? Building your own point solution became outdated really, really quickly. We were even at a point where we would talk about by brand name technologies that we would introduce to a customer when we showed up, and we had to stop doing that. We had to start talking about capabilities that we wanted. We want automated matching. We want bot-based screening. You'll notice I didn't talk about brand names at all, because as soon as I do that, 90 days from now, this video would be out of date, because the brand or the tool or the technology that's necessary will go away, or it will be supplanted by something that's better. So we're on, what you'll see now is the maximum life cycle for technology in HR tech is 3 years. Typically, you're seeing 1-year contracts, because things are evolving so quickly that you just have to be prepared for that constant switch and the need to upgrade and evolve it as the technology does as well.
So I have one last question to wrap us up. You have a fantastic office environment there, and I did call you Chief Nerd at the start of the interview. Tell me a little bit about your office, because if we were on a video interview right now, I would make about some assumptions about Jason Roberts. So tell me a bit about.
So this is the culmination of Christmas presents over many years. I'm a super nerd, apparently, of superheroes. So we have some things that have come over time, and you can see Superman up here in the corner. You see about half of him up here, and the bookends are superheroes pushing the books up. So you've got Superman flying and pushing the falling books over, and Supergirl is over on this side instead. And but yeah, that's what the wife and kids like to give me for Christmas. My wife weighs in, because it would devolve very quickly into like action figures and pop figures if I were to do this. So she gets me the nicer superhero things over time that I'm allowed to put in the room.
So Jason, if I was interviewing you today, I might say that one, you might bring superpowers to the job. You're an overachiever, and you really look at how you can create powers and capabilities and recruitment models. Would that be a nice assessment if this was a video interview today?
That would be a perfect assessment. I'm trying to bring the Iron Man suit to all recruiters. That's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you so much for your time, Jason. I know that you have to run to another meeting. Thank you for participating in Talent Trailblazer TV, and we look forward to sharing this out with our audiences globally. Thank you.
Thank you.